All right, so here we go. So the Cyberpunk community is definitely talking about this new leak today because it's not what we expected at all. Do you guys remember that very awkward video from CD Projekt Red after the botched launch of Cyberpunk 2077? This one right here, as they desperately tried to explain their way out of this horrible launch and what they're going to do to fix Cyberpunk 2077. Well, we're going to be revisiting that because we have a new leak, and this is the headline right here. It says, report claims Cyberpunk bugs weren't caught because a QA company lied to CD Projekt Red. So we'll dive into this article, but can we really blame one company for the horrible launch that was, Cyberpunk 2077? Now, don't get me wrong. Cyberpunk, in my opinion, right now is in pretty good shape after the next-gen update and update 1.5. I'm super hyped for the future with update 1.6 apparently coming up here in 2022. And then, of course, the big expansion coming up in 2023. Now, that's not all we're going to be discussing today because, yes, we're going to be discussing Cyberpunk EdgeRunners. I cannot wait for this. Apparently, they're going to be showcasing an early look at the first episode, I should say. But there's a catch with that I'll explain in just a moment. Plus, yes, we're going to talk about Cyberpunk and AMD, some really cool stuff going on there. So if you are using AMD on your PC, you're going to want to pay attention because you could up your graphics even more and make your game run even better. All right, so first of all, let's get into this new leak, shall we? It goes on to say this: back when Cyberpunk launched, among the few apologies CD Projekt Red offered at the time was an infamous one in which it was claimed the QA simply didn't catch all the bugs people were experiencing in the game. And I remember that. I remember this infamous video right here where they mentioned the QA team not doing their job. They said it in a weird way, and a lot of people were furious when they did that, when they tried to place the blame on quality assurance. And in fact, a lot of people around the gaming industry, even outside of Cyberpunk, took notice and said, hey, I work in quality assurance. This happens all the time where we're blamed, we're underpaid, overworked, and this is BS. So let's keep going and seeing if there was actual truth behind what CD Projekt Red was trying to say. It says it sounded laughable at the time given the scale and scope of the bugs, but it turns out there could be some truth to that, and it's potentially a wild story. Furthermore, it says this right here. It goes on to say a 72-page document was sent by a whistleblower to YouTuber Upper Echelon Gamers, who has reported on Cyberpunk issues in the past. It focuses on Quantic Labs, a quality assurance company who did a lot of testing work on Cyberpunk 2077. Among the allegations made are the following, so let's get into this in depth. Goes on to say this: Quantic Labs over-exaggerated the size of the team working on Cyberpunk in order to keep the contract. That's really weird. Wouldn't CD Projekt Red visually be able to go to the studio and see the size of the team, right? I would hope. And then it says Quantic Labs said the team was made up of senior staff, but it was instead juniors with under 6 months experience in QA. Yikes, that would be a really bad one, of course. Furthermore, it says Quantic Lab had a daily quota of reported bugs, which led to CD Projekt Red getting thousands of relatively pointless bug reports from the testers who took up a lot of time. Yikes. So to me, this is an interesting one for sure, because you would think that CD Projekt Red would, of course, notice that their game isn't working right and immediately see the problem for themselves. Of course, you had developers at CD Projekt Red playing the latest build thrown their way from the quality assurance teams, and they would be able to say, hey, something ain't right here. This is not getting fixed, in an appropriate manner. And what also is telling is that they have experience with QA. I mean, this is not a company that is a novice at all at quality assurance. They made The Witcher 3. They have the know-how to fix a game. Of course, The Witcher 3 had a bunch of bugs and stuff. So to place the blame on quality assurance only, to me, is absolutely ridiculous. CD Projekt Red would have to notice that something was up with their game and that they would not be able to launch it in the state that it was in. And it goes up, of course, to the board members, the people actually handling the decision making behind the release date of the game. They, to me, are the core ones to blame for this problem, and QA is just another part of the puzzle piece that they are honestly responsible to solve this problem. And if there's a problem with QA, they need to identify it and maybe find a different QA company to help them out here. So that would have been the solution, not to just go, oh, it's their fault. To me, it seems a bit ridiculous, and they should be having someone from CD Projekt Red right there on the floor with QA. Someone that's intimately familiar with the game, at least several times a month, maybe, to determine if things are being done properly. All right, so let's keep going. We got to talk about, of course, yes, I'm so hyped for this, EdgeRunners. I cannot wait for this anime. And we have some details here. Let's go to the headline. It says right here, Studio Trigger will join Anime Expo with first episode of Cyberpunk EdgeRunners. And yes, they're going to be revealing this. Let's see what they said out on Twitter. It says from Trigger Inc. Trigger will be returning to AX this year. We're planning to make this our most exciting panel ever, with the world premiere of Cyberpunk EdgeRunner Episode 1 followed with a potent announcement. Best not to miss this one out if you're attending AX. Sweet. So some sort of potent announcement is also coming up there attached to Cyberpunk EdgeRunner. I cannot wait to find out what that's about as well. Now, if we go here, if you're wondering when that is, here's their promotional art, Anime Expo 2022. It says July 2nd on Saturday. So maybe we will be seeing something online related to this, but I'm expecting this to be shown physically at the location to those that are there. And it's going to probably be kept private with that first episode. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got more marketing, like trailers related to EdgeRunners, that sort of thing, and sneak peeks and clips and things like that at the very least. I don't think they're going to just reveal the first episode to absolutely everyone online. It's going to be a physical thing. So that's the catch. If you're there, good for you. You're going to get to see the first episode of, EdgeRunners, which would be really, really cool. Now, if you're wondering what's going on with AMD and Cyberpunk and how to actually improve your graphics while reducing the load on your computer, check this out. It says Cyberpunk now supports AMD's latest upscaling tech thanks to this mod. A modder creates an add-on for Cyberpunk that features AMD's image upscaling AI called Fidelity FX Super Resolution 2.0, which launched recently. This is really cool technology. Let's dive into the details of this one. Now, furthermore, it says this, as spotted by DSO Gaming, modder Potato of Doom has created a mod for Cyberpunk that attempts to replace NVIDIA's DLSS or Deep Learning Super Sampling with AMD's FSR or Fidelity FX Super Resolution. Specifically, it features version 2.0, which is the latest iteration of the tech from Team Red. The description on Nexus Mod says that this is still a proof of concept, but the developer has said the results are quite impressive. Anyone who wishes to download and try the add-on are warned that it's still in development, so there may be some bugs, so that's just a warning there. But try it out. Let me know what you guys think. I'll throw the links and stuff like that in the description below. But it goes on to say this, AMD released FSR 2 last month, with Arcane Studios' Deathloop being one of the first games to receive it. It offers a more open source alternative to NVIDIA's DLSS, which was one of the first upscaling technologies to hit the market, with the first iteration releasing in September 2020. While the team's green software is becoming more open source these days, it's mainly associated with the company's own RTX-based graphics cards, which is arguably what makes AMD's FSR somewhat more appealing. Interesting. It would be cool if we saw more graphic improvements, of course, on the console side of things. I know a lot of you console users are probably wondering what's going on there. So maybe update 1.6 will have that sort of thing in there. And of course, the expansion with updates. But that's just me speculating. Now it says this, for those who aren't aware, image upscaling is pretty much an industry standard in gaming these days. Up there with the likes of ray tracing, it essentially works by upscaling games' visuals on the fly, redrawing pixels to make them comparable to higher resolutions. The idea behind it is to generate better graphics in games without putting more strain on the hardware. Even Apple has announced its own upscaling tech called Metal FX. So that's becoming more and more important. So if you want your game to run better, try out the mod. Let me know if it works. Now it is time to go over your top comments about my most recent Cyberpunk video, which is right here. It says this, Cyberpunk CD Projekt, new Cyberpunk project is everything we wanted But there's a catch. So yes, there's a new board game coming up here. It's called Gangs of Night City. But they have so many cool, impressive features about factions, gang wars, hiring muscle, all sorts of amazing concepts that we want to see in the actual game Cyberpunk 2077. We just don't want it to be dedicated to a board game. We wanted to see it like with the big expansion with update 1.6. So let's see what you guys had to say about this one right now. Devin 1993 goes on to say this: I feel like the game needs more stuff than just bug fixes. It needs more content and all those promised features. Yeah, let me know what is your on the top list of those promised features though. I want to see more parkour type stuff. I don't want them overdoing it in that regard, but I've always said mega buildings would be absolutely perfect to have, like, I suppose you would say a miniature open world within an open world, and you could do some really cool parkour type stuff inside of a mega building. That would be very, very cool. Naughty Pine says this: I feel that the game really becomes stagnant after finishing the main story. One, your only option after beating the game is to load your latest save before completing the story. I think that was a mistake. For an open world game, I like to continue on with the in-game changes, not go back to before it happened. Yeah, that's very awkward. And two, once all gigs and side quests are done and the main story nearly complete, character interactions are so limited it doesn't feel immersive anymore. I'd really like to see the world interactions and developed relationships expanded, and continue on from a completed main story. Yeah, there's no in-game really to Cyberpunk. That's something that they really need to bring to us, and we need to do Game Plus option as well as a transmog system, all this stuff. I hope makes it into the game when all's said and done. We can only hope, pray, and wish. Now we have Kiri who says this: with what the mod community is already doing with Cyberpunk, the best CD Projekt Red could do is make it open source and let these mod gods add all kinds of new awesome content and custom missions, gigs, romance options, etc. with official support. They are already expanding the world in amazing ways with restrictions they have. Imagine if CD Projekt Red put him on the payroll even as freelancers. I hear ya. But I'm going to be honest with you, that's not going to happen. Here's why. They're moving on entirely from Red Engine 2.0. They're going to be doing Unreal Engine 5, and perhaps that's where they can support more modding stuff there. But they need to move on so they have a cohesive vision between all the teams at CD Projekt Red. So everyone is absolutely on the same page. And yeah, that's what it's looking like for the future here for Cyberpunk 2077. But I do agree with you. That would be amazing to see it go open source and have full mod support across all platforms and mods go wild with the game, but just not going to happen in my opinion. But anyway, there it is. The latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. Let me know what you think of this crazy story about the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. It's a shame that it launched so horribly, of course, and they got themselves into this situation. They're still, to this day, trying to repair their reputation. But thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.